All right. Here we are at the end of the new year. Well, I guess the end of the year of the old year going into the new year. Not a good start for the stream there. Okay, there we go. So I hope everyone had a good Christmas, Kwanzaa, or whatever you celebrate. I suppose maybe Hanukkah for some. Maybe you're a Jehovah's Witness and don't celebrate shit. Hopefully you got some time off work either way. So yeah, I'm actually uploading a video right now. I did kind of just a speed run recap of the year. A lot of people do super in depth top fives and tens and bottom fives and tens and blah blah blah. I did a top and bottom five and then just a bunch of honorable mentions that I summed up in like one sentence. And I did not realize how much shit that I actually watched this year until I did that video and I was listing shit off. Um, because I did it last night. I had to finish the editing this morning. So yeah, apparently I watch a lot of fucking TV, which not the worst problem to have, I guess. I was just a little bit surprised at myself, but this will probably be the last stream for the year for me. It's really hard to imagine that I just randomly decide to do a New Year's Eve one or something. I mean, I guess there's a small chance that I could do it, but most likely I'll just be hanging out, struggling to make it to midnight like a fucking boomer. Not too much going on. I don't know if I've gone out for New Year's in about 10 years. I don't know if any of you guys go out for New Year's, but man, it is a shit show. It's like, it's fun to go out for holidays and whatever. It is also, to me, just like one of my least favorite times to be out when there's a holiday where you get a bunch of people drinking who don't normally drink, because those people tend to be the ones that act like assholes and just kind of go completely crazy, drink way too much, get into fights. Just not my thing. I mean, I'm also kind of a grumpy old man at this point, so that probably doesn't help. And the fact that I'm even talking about struggling to make it to midnight, I think, is indicative of that. But yeah, hopefully you guys do something fun, or maybe you guys are pulling the same move I am and just trying to stay up. So yeah, I guess if I guess I can go ahead and just say what my top five and bottom five were, since the video. Let's see how much time it has left on the upload. Yeah, the video still has about half an hour for the upload. Probably a few minutes to process. So, it'll be at least a little bit before it. It'll be at least a little bit before it gets actually uploaded, probably around the time the stream ends anyway. So yeah, for me, my bottom 5 were American Society of Magical Negroes. I just fucking hated that movie. It was so boring. Hey, what's up, Mr. Divine? It was so fucking boring. Where did the transport thing just go? The writing was horrendous. As a rom-com, it sucked. The jokes were not funny. It was obviously a overtly racist movie. And it drives me fucking crazy when these shows try to hide behind the guise of satire. And this is kind of what The Boys does also. There we go. A little bit of a lag there on the stream. But it just really pisses me off because what these things do, like The Boys does this too, where they essentially espouse all their own views and then make the people that they don't like absolutely fucking crazy. And then if you call them out for it, they're like, "Oh, it's comedy, bro. Satire. You just don't get it." And it's like, no. Fuck you. Yeah, exactly. Mr. Divine says, or they hide behind, "It wasn't made for you." Yeah, the whole "you just don't get it" thing, it just annoys the fuck out of me. It's so funny. I actually still get comments on my video about The Boys saying, "You just don't get it." When I literally lay out in that video how they use the literal Nazi as the mouthpiece for mainstream conservative opinions. And it's like, yeah, so you hate a certain group of people. You have a character that everyone knows is evil, spouting their ideology. And then when you get called out for it, for being blatantly partisan, you just hide behind comedy. Old man yells at clouds energy. Yeah, it just I don't know. And then it's funny, there's with The Boys at least, there's a lot of people who are on the right who will literally just say, I don't care. Like, I like the show. Which makes it even funnier to me. But yeah, I don't know. So anyway, that was my number 5. I fucking hated it. I hate the whole it's just satire as an excuse to say whatever you want. The movie itself just sucked as a movie. And I don't think anyone saw it. My number 4 for my disliked things for this year is Yakuza Fiance. Yakuza Fiance is essentially a girl's grandfather is a Yakuza. He sets her up to go live with this boy from a rival faction who's in the Yakuza to try to kind of make peace between the two, not have any turf wars, blah, blah, blah. And the whole premise is that they're supposed to be dating with the intention of getting married, or at least getting to know each other. With the hopes of I was distracted by this stupid game. So that's the premise, is this 17-year-old girl and guy are living together. And the reason I put it on my bottom 5 is because the entire show is a glorification of the total bad boy trope, or whatever you want to call it. The relationship itself is super toxic. And, you know, kind of the same criticism I'm having for satire, I would level at this show, or kind of a lot of shows like this or movies like this, where, you know, where it hides behind essentially being a rom-com, and like the tone of the show being happy, as a way to portray this relationship that's super fucking unhealthy in like a positive light. So like, he stalks her, he's hooking up with other women the whole time. He uses women as prostitutes and all kinds of shit. Obviously, he's super violent because he's in the Yakuza. He essentially threatens her and any guy that she ever hooks up with that's not him, that he'll kill him. Like, he's a complete fucking lunatic. And she's as bad, I would say. Like, she is also crazy. She, you know, attacks people physically. She gets mad at him and just ignores him for days on end. And then she's also kind of like seemingly still into him. It's fucking weird. So that whole show and everything that it represents, I just don't like. Like, I just can't get behind the whole glorification of these crazy unhealthy relationships. Mr. Divine says, I don't get it. That's just how the youth date these days. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that these relationships don't happen, but I know that people actually do engage in these types of relationships in real life. I just hate these properties that glorify this type of thing. And I would wager that the audience is like 80% women. And you know, maybe it's maybe this is like the female equivalent of like the power fantasy type shit for men, where they, you know, are the hero and they kill the bad guy and have a harem. Maybe that's all it is. I don't fucking know. I just don't like seeing it. And to be fair, I don't like the harem shit either. Like, none of that is my thing. I mean, the harem thing can be done right, but by and large, not a fan. So, yeah, that, I mean, what was the, like, 50 Shades of Grey, I heard was very similar, like, super popular, and had a very similar thing where the guy was essentially abusive. Yeah, that's so funny. Mr. Divine said that right after I did. Look at the women who loved Christian Grey. Yeah, man, I guess if you're rich and good looking, and abusive is that's just the way to go, huh? That's what men should strive for. And people wonder why guys like fucking Andrew Tate end up becoming famous when guys are watching girls be attracted to men like that. Yeah, I don't. I just like even. Damn it. But yeah, so that show for me, and also just as a to be fair to the show itself, it's fine as like it's fine as like a generic rom com. Yeah, Mr. Devine says handsome equals flirting, ugly equals harassment. Yeah, I think that's the one of the things where a lot of guys' frustration comes in when it comes to dating is essentially the only way to find out if a woman is interested in you is to be the initiator. But if you initiate wrongly, you don't know until afterward. And then you're like liable for the result. It's like one of the only things where your intent doesn't really matter. Like, if you intend to murder somebody, whether or not you succeed is irrelevant. But if you ask a girl out and she says no, even if you use the exact same pickup line as a guy that she said yes to, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, and I think a lot of guys think it's unfair. I mean, I guess women think it's unfair that they get unwanted advances from men, but there's also kind of no avoiding that when I would wager that unless you are a super wealthy guy or a super good looking guy, most guys can probably count on one hand the number of women they've had like initiate and actually ask them out. And even then, like you'll hear stories all the time of women being like, well, yeah, I talked to him, but he didn't ask me out, so I guess he wasn't interested. Like if just saying hello, their job's done. So, you're kind of in a bit of a fucked situation there where it's completely result dependent and your intent and approach don't even matter. Like if, Brad Pitt and me walk into a bar, Brad Pitt and I walk into a bar, Jesus. Fucking can't even use proper grammar. And we both say, hey bitch, nice titties. He might go home with one and have sex, and I could be in trouble for harassment or get tossed out of the bar. So yeah, I mean, I'm so glad I haven't had to date in a long time. It seems fucking hellish. Even when I was younger and single, honestly, it was never one of my like. It was never something that I enjoyed. Like I'm sure there's plenty of guys who love. Thanks. Mr. Divine says I let you hit FC. The even when I was younger and single, I just didn't like dating. There's an element to it of, at least for men, and this is how I felt. I don't know if this is how other guys feel, but presumably the girl that you're trying to talk to in a public place is single, and if she's not, you've already got competition with her boyfriend. But I just hated this whole thing where feels like we're all kind of dancing monkeys for the attractive women. Like we all have to be the ones to impress her and kind of bend over backwards for her. And I just never enjoyed that feeling. So as soon as some girl had multiple guys hitting on her, and I felt like I had to fight to even talk to her, I was just like, nah. Probably part of why I was so bad at dating. It yeah, it was never my thing. I mean, some guys love it and they, don't care about getting rejected 1,000 times, and like the whole chase is the part that they have fun with. That just wasn't me. And even then, even once you talk to a girl, a lot of them want to play the games of deliberately answering texts slowly. There's zero fucking chance they ever offer to pay for anything. And if you ask, they'll either just stop answering or call you cheap or think that you're not into them. I don't know. It just feels like a lot of the burden on dating is on men. Oh, of course, a lot of the burden for women is trying to judge which guys are actually interested and which ones are just trying to get laid, which I'm sure is, a pain in the ass in its own way. And I'm sure you end up dealing with a lot of deceptive people and all that shit. But yeah, I do not miss that shit at all. Anyway, moving on from Yakuza Fiance and random dating talk. My number 3, Mr. Divine says 6 figures, 6 feet, 6 inches. My number 3 for my least favorite shit last year, or the stuff that I thought was the worst, was The Acolyte. It was just so bad. I mentioned this in the video that's uploading right now. That's one of the only Star Wars things that's actually been canceled. Like, if people don't pay attention, I don't know. But most Star Wars stuff, they won't ever officially cancel it. They'll either make it sound like the last season was gonna be the final from the outset, or they will just be like, oh yeah, it's coming in 2028. We swear that this show is totally getting made and we're absolutely spending money on it. So it's so for The Acolyte to actually get canceled is like kind of crazy. So just how fucking bad it was, how bad the viewership was, how much money they spent on it. I think the final actual budget when it came out ended up being like $250 or something, like something crazy for for a TV show that is only 4.5 hours of runtime or whatever, and that much, like, the quality obviously just being so piss poor. And that's also one of the first things I feel like even the normies just turned on and were like, this is absolute bullshit. This isn't Star Wars. Like, fuck this. What are these witches? I think Ahsoka got away with a little bit of it. And then when you followed it with The Acolyte, people were like, okay, like, what am I watching at this fucking point? So I think the Acolyte seemed to be the tipping point for like the normie kind of mainstream audience. And I think that's really indicative of the way that Star Wars was already trending quality wise, but now it's going to start impacting their viewership and money even more so. I'm assuming it already was, given we haven't had a movie. I mean, we're going to go like a fucking decade without a movie at this point. Mr. Divine says you heard that was going to be a season 2 Andor. What do you mean by that? I heard the budget for Andor was like 600 and something million for 2 seasons, which is absolute lunacy. I mean, you have to wonder where that money is going at this point. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, Andor looks good. It doesn't look $1 billion good. So yeah, Acolyte to me, I think was a really big moment culturally for Star Wars and just the damage that's been done to the brand. So that was number 3 for me. And then obviously you had all the weird male fan service only stuff, Amanda Stenberg's diss track. And they just continue to come after the audience, which I just don't fucking get. It seems absolutely foolish to me. But, you know, they just keep fucking doing it. Yeah. So I'll just keep going. I mean, I'm sure I've beaten Star Wars to death on this channel enough, along with a million other people. Number 2 for me, for my most hated shit this year, was Joker 2. Joker 2, I thought was just... I've never seen a sequel that was by the original creator that also hated the audience that made it successful to begin with to even get a sequel. And that movie just felt like... I mean, it felt like the Joker was about 2 seconds away from looking into the camera and saying, go fuck yourself. Like, just how transparent they were with their distaste for the audience that they think they cultivated. And it was very clear. I've never seen anything like that before. Like, it's competently made, but it just hates the audience so much. It's crazy. And I mean, I think if you're into like following all this stuff, you've probably already heard all the reasons and know why. But to me, like, for people who, if you're somehow here and unaware of the sort of meta around Joker, the first one, the narrative and the narrative around Joker 1 was essentially that... See, and that's what I was going to say. It's kind of what Mr. Divine just said. So the narrative, Mr. Divine said, I heard Todd Phillips' message was missed in Joker, and he wanted to hammer it home in Joker 2. And see, that's what I think is the ridiculous part, is because the narrative, and this, as far as I can tell, was just all media driven, was that this movie made the Joker an incel hero, promoted violence against women, promoted violence in general, and it made $1 billion because all the incels came out in droves, and he was like the new face of the incel movement, which is a fucking retarded phrase to even begin with. Jesus. The idea that guys not getting laid is some kind of movement. I mean, give me a fucking break. But anyway, so this idea that they think the audience liked the movie because they aspired to be like the Joker, they aspired to be violent to women in particular, to be stalkers. It's just retarded. And I don't know how Hollywood buys into its own bullshit so much. But that seems to be that seems to be the narrative. And that, I mean, that was the narrative at the time. Every fucking media person was like, oh my God, there's going to be a mass shooting at this movie. But they were going fucking crazy. And people bought into it. People bought into it to the point where they were like, I'm not going to go see that in theater because I heard there was going to be a shooting. And I think it's an insult to the audience. I think it's an insult to pretty much men everywhere. Because really, the movie was about a guy who had his own issues and then just never got any help from anyone and had some bad breaks along the way and snapped. I don't think anyone glorified it. I don't think anyone wants to be the Joker. I don't buy any of that bullshit. Of course, when I say anyone, I don't mean there's not literally one single person. Obviously, you know, when you have billions of people watching a movie, some of them are going to be fucking crazy. Like, that's how shit is. There's crazy people fucking everywhere. And it kind of is what it is. I just can't believe that that's the takeaway the media got from that movie. And I said this in my videos about it also. If the dude had been black instead of Joaquin Phoenix, who I always thought was some kind of Hispanic or whatever, they would have framed it as, you know, revolutionary and a reflection of the POC experience and blah, blah, blah. Instead of angry white men or, you know, mass shooters and the most dangerous thing to society. And, you know, if you pay attention to the news, all the same shit you always hear. And Todd Phillips really took that to heart from the media and used his second movie to essentially just say to the audience, this guy is bad. You shouldn't look up to him. Ever. And I think everyone already fucking knew that. So it really pissed me off. On top of being a miserable 2-hour experience, the music was hardly ever actually music. It kind of sounded like if I just started like talking to you like I am right now with a little bit of rhythm. That's kind of what the music was for like 75% of it. I mean, they had the Joker literally get raped. So yeah, that was my number 2 this year. I fucking hated it. I also, so my number 1 for the thing I hated the most this year was Halo. Halo season 2. I love Halo. It's one of my favorite IPs. It's maybe my favorite gaming one. I mean, I've read a lot of the books, not all of them. The show was just so bad. And this is another one that they just spit in the face of the fans over and over. And the fans made their complaints very clear after season 1. Their viewership, like, you can see their numbers. Well, sorry, you can't see the numbers for season 1 because Paramount Plus was still too small. But if you look into it, at the time, they announced for the first 24 hours, Halo was the most watched show on their platform. And we know at the time, their platform was like Paramount Plus only had like 35 million subscribers, and over 5 million people out of that 35 million watched it in the first 24 hours. And they had less viewers for season 2, and the platform had doubled in size. So very clearly a massive drop off in interest. And the fact that they never announced numbers again after episode 1, obviously pretty indicative of the performance of the show. You know, whether they want to admit it or not. And I think a lot of people didn't realize also that Halo Season 2 was greenlit before episode 1 even aired. So I think it's one of those things, kind of like Rings of Power, where they said, okay, we're going to invest this much money up front for sets and costumes and blah, blah, blah. And then we'll just spread it out over the 2 seasons. But the budget was massively cut for season 2. the story, they doubled down on everything that everyone complained about. Pablo Schreiber, who played Master Chief, straight up came out and said, if you want the Chief to have his helmet on, the show's not for you. Like, if you don't like it, don't watch. Just typical arrogant Hollywood fucking horse shit. And for me, part of the reason this is my most hated is because not only was the show bad, you know what? I actually did forget about Velma, because that was one that I hadn't watched. So I actually did forget about Velma. That's a good reminder. Oh, it's too late now. But that one, I actually did mention a few shows that I hadn't watched, and just kind of the consensus on them in my video. And I totally forgot that one. Was that this year? That must have been like January or something. But for Halo, there's a lot of reasons that it pisses me off. And what I was saying was part of that was the double down. Like, the fans made their complaints very clear. So to come out and literally take away the Chiefs' armor for the entire season, like, that just feels like a really big fuck you. I'm sure part of it was budget, because the budget was way lower for season 2. Whatever it was. They didn't announce it, but you can tell by the way it's shot. And how much of everything is in darkness and all that. But a lot of my frustration with that is now, instead of being like, oh, you know, this was a dog shit show, and a good show probably still has a fan base and whatever, I think a lot of the studios are going to be like, oh, well, Halo's just not a property worth having. Or it's not a property worth investing any money into. And it's going to be sort of a self-fulfilling thing of, you know, if it gets picked up by anybody, which I don't think it will, they're not going to want to put any money into it. And because they're not going to put any money into it, it's not going to be very good. So I think Halo, for like live action stuff, is kind of fucked for the near future. And look, I advocated for the show to get canceled when it came out. Yeah, Mr. Divine said the Fall of Reach was ass. Exactly. I advocated for it to get canceled. I still think that's the right position. Because the longer that show goes on, the worse it is for the brand. I mean, it was a bad fucking show. That's all there is to it. And, but now I'm a little bit worried that people are going to think it's an issue with the property instead of an issue with the product. And another part of my frustration, this is like the obvious thing, is Halo is yet another franchise that has so much lore. Like, I think there's like 30-something books. I mean, I've read probably 15 or 20 of them. And there's comics. You obviously still have the games. You know. Although people are really dishonest too who defend that shit. And that's something else that's really frustrating is people will defend any brand at least to a certain point. And it really is frustrating that people won't just demand better. Like, why not say, okay, I love Halo or Star Wars or I don't fucking know, The Witcher, whatever it is, but you need to make better shit. So seeing people like defend the Halo show just because it's Halo, I also found just gross. But you know, some people will complain like, oh, well, the Fall of Reach has been done in a game, it's been done in a book, it's been done in an animated movie. And it's like, you know, if you combine all that shit, first of all, the game has definitely gotten the most eyes on it, which changes some canon stuff. And also, the I was distributing my points here. But also, isn't the IP up for sale? I heard Christopher Nolan might be interested. That was bullshit as far as I'm aware. That Christopher Nolan rumor. And I don't know if the IP is up for sale or just the rights to the show. And my guess, and I don't know if this is 100% the case, is that part of the reason it hasn't been sold yet, at least last I checked, my guess, and I have no clue of knowing this, is that the people in charge of the show, I think it's Kiki Wolfkill and a couple other people, probably are butthurt about the reception of it. And I wonder if they're trying to make a caveat that you can only buy the rights if you're willing to continue the show as it is, instead of just saying, okay, you can have the rights to Halo and then do your own thing. Because I think eventually that is what's going to happen. And I don't know, like, I'm not going to pretend like I know all the ins and outs of how this shit works. But I would think, you know, once Paramount says, okay, like, we're good here, you can do what you want, I would think if they wanted to sell it tomorrow, like the rights to it for a movie, that they would have no problem doing so. I don't see why you would. Unless they're trying to put a bunch of stipulations on what you can do with the rights and limits. And Christopher Nolan actually just came out, he's doing an Odyssey adaptation. So I doubt he's working on anything else at the same time. He seems to work kind of one thing at a time as far as I'm aware. But what I was going to say about the Fall of Reach, though, is even if, you know, a few million people have played the game and they know that story, and probably, you know, a couple 100,000 or maybe a couple million have read the books, or read the book, the Fall of Reach, which I would definitely recommend to anybody who likes Halo. It's a really good book. And it's a really good setup for the whole Spartan program. But, you know, there's a lot of people, even the people who play the game, don't view games as like a legitimate art form. They view movies, TV as prestige, and then, you know, everything else is just kind of on a lower level, with probably games and books being the lowest, I would have to guess. So, yeah, even if you've played the games and you know the whole story, people just like to see shit in live action. Yeah, Mr. Divine says it sounds like a mess if you have to pick up from season 2. I don't know that. That's just my guess, because I do have to wonder how much ego is at play here. Because it seems like, I mean, even Halo Infinite, as much as, you know, I would shit on the story and how disappointing it was, and the fact that it came out with, you know, multiplayer, the fact that it came out with multiplayer that was completely unready or unfinished, like, at the end of the day, I think Infinite still sold like 10 million copies or 12 million copies or some crazy shit. I mean, it made a ton of money. So, like, clearly the brand itself has value. So it's really just a matter of, you know, how do you push it forward to a bigger audience and also increase the value? And I don't know why these executives seem to think this is some complicated thing. It's really simple. You have really popular source material, adapt it as best as you can to screen, and a normal audience will love it. Like, they try to make it complicated. They try to pretend like, oh, it's popular with a niche audience, but it wouldn't be popular with the rest of everyone else. And it's like, no, you buy something that's popular because it's popular. Like, sure, it's niche in the sense that maybe not everyone plays first-person shooters, but there's a reason it appealed to so many people who play those anyway. So the whole thing I just find really frustrating. And I don't know, I just, the amount of damage that I think that did to the Halo brand, to the likelihood of getting a Halo movie or show with a decent budget, I don't see it happening anytime soon. And that doesn't even get into the right stuff and, you know, how much of dicks they're being over at 343, and who the hell knows all behind the scenes shit. So yeah, the whole thing just seems like an absolute mess to me. It's just so disappointing. Any hope for the Warhammer show? Well, the fact that Henry Cavill hasn't left yet. I mean, I don't know the Warhammer lore. My understanding is it's like crazy in depth, and the people who follow the Warhammer lore are like very, very invested in it. But I don't know like anything about it other than it sounds like some kind of galactic scale warfare with super soldiers and shit. Um, but I mean, if Henry Cavill is staying on the project, that seems to me like he's at least going to have a decent amount of control. Because apparently that's one of the reasons they didn't like working with him on the Witcher, was that he wanted to stick to the books, and they were like, you know, they wanted to be a vanity project. God damn it. What's up, DC? DC says they could adapt one of the books directly and get a better product for Halo, and it could work for 40K. Well, that's what I was saying before I got distracted, and I said this in multiple videos. For Halo, if you planned it out correctly, you could literally do like a book per season, and they don't necessarily need to be like 10 episode hour long seasons. Just do however many the story dictates. Okay, so DC says 40K is like a combination of Lord of the Rings, Dune, and Starship Troopers. Huh. That's a pretty wild mixture there. But yeah, I mean, that would be like what I would, like if I was in charge, which obviously won't fucking happen. I would say, okay, let's sit down with a couple creatives, a couple of lore people, you know, look at what's popular, look at what's contradictory, and then set out to did I just lock myself in here? And then set out to essentially like prepare a universe ahead of time. Like you don't need to try to go one at a time. Mr. Divine says he fears 40K is going to be heavy CG. And if they don't have good effects, it could kill the show. Yeah, that's always a risk with sci-fi and television. And that's kind of part of why I wonder if a Halo movie might be better. But then part of me is also like, does it even really matter? Because, you know, you can get away with some bad special effects if the story is good, people will overlook it. I've heard that Doctor Who had bad visuals forever. You know, even stuff like Firefly or whatever. Like there's all the TV shows always have bad moments just because your budget. But yeah, if I was in charge of Halo, I would say, okay, let's lay out the timeline, lay out the lore, and then prepare like what's our starting point going to be? Let's do one season. But have plans in place for, you know, many more if it goes well. And that way you have your whole timeline laid out. You know where all your characters are going to be. You don't have to worry about contradictions. And then you try to make just one good show at a time. Like, not everything needs to be written with a universe in mind, which is what happens. Like, that's kind of what happened to Arcane Season 2. And to me, it kind of killed Arcane Season 2. Because it seemed like they were like, oh, well, we need to fit in a bajillion things to set up for all these spin-offs. I think they've already announced 3. When instead, if they had just made a good Arcane Season 2, they wouldn't have to feel pressured or, you know, rushed or whatever you want to say. They could literally just focus on making one good show at a time. I mean, it's crazy how many people forget that that's how the MCU started. Was just make a good show. Like, not everything has to be done and trying to take into account 100 other things. And that was sort of my opinion, at least, on the Superman trailer or teaser, whatever you want to call it. Was it looks to me like they're already, at least from the trailer, trying to introduce like 8 characters. And I just think that's a really big mistake. I think the much simpler thing to do, arguably the smarter thing to do, would have been just have a Superman versus Lex Luthor movie and have a Superman versus Lex Luthor movie. You know, sorry, I was distracted by this stupid puzzle. Um, and you know, you do just a simple, tight story. Maybe you throw in a stinger at the end, but you know, you don't need to introduce seven fucking characters in your first movie and try to establish the entire universe in one go. And that would be my fear for the Superman movie, just based on that first trailer. My understanding is we don't even know the story yet. We don't know anything. So yeah, I don't know. It just seems like everyone is so consumed with universes now that it's like if you don't tell your first story well, your universe ideas don't fucking matter. We need shows like Breaking Bad, a set goal where you want to end the story. I feel like shows want to tell a story in one season and then are forced to make a season 2. Well, there's definitely that component. Where we're getting sequels that were never intended. And I think that's really hard to do. Like, if you've told a nice, tight story and it ended where you wanted it to, and then someone says, yeah, but we need to make some more money, like, go make us more. That's a tough spot to be in, I think, for the creatives. Because you also don't want to watch someone destroy your shit, you know? Mr. Divine says, I see what Gunn's trying to do. He's just going to throw you into the action. I don't think we need an origin for every reboot. No, I'm not saying it has to be an origin story. I'm just saying, you know, I just think it's tough to bring in that many characters when you haven't already established who they are. Because like part of this movie, presumably, is going to be establishing who each of these characters are. Like, even if you're not doing a full-blown origin, you still need to get to know them and their beliefs and values and, you know, all that shit to some degree, right? So to me, that's a lot for what I'm guessing is going to be a 2 hour and 15-minute movie. Maybe 2.5. And you're talking about needing to understand. I had to go back and count. I think it was at least 7 characters, right? But no, I totally get the, like, you don't need to see, you don't need to see, like, fucking Bruce Wayne's parents die again. Like, that aspect, I definitely understand. So, you know, that part I don't care if you don't want to show Krypton blowing up or him learning his powers and all that. I just worry that it's going to be mine. No, I like the story that I've written, which I actually might finally be finishing my edit today. Hopefully, I might do it right after this stream. And then I'm going to do one like read out loud edit, probably with my wife, hopefully over the next few days. And then I can get into like the logistics of being done with it, of, you know, actually getting it out and being done with it. Because I did edit it a few days ago. There's just a couple of quirks in my writing. I don't know why this fucking thing does this. I'm stuck facing this fucking direction. But no, I don't. I wrote it because I started writing it because I was depressed. I wanted to do something that I felt like was productive. But aside from that, I wanted to sort of tell one story with one main theme in mind. And as far as a possible sequel, I've considered, like, you know, when I'm fantasizing about it selling more than however many copies my family buys. Like, if I was asked to do a sequel in that world, could I? I probably could, but there would definitely be a gap because I would have to take time to think about, like, okay, like, this stuff was covered. This was the stuff I intended to cover. This is the stuff that I did cover. But what parts of the world are left over? What would be interesting? Whose perspective would be different enough to make it worth reading again? Or, you know, reading another story in that same world. And it's funny because the story that I wrote, the society is, like, so fucking oppressive that there's essentially no culture. And that was actually kind of a challenge for me with a lot of the writing. But, you know, would, like, how different would another person's story be? Oh, you fucking son of a bitch. My computer just froze up on me. Cock sucker. Yep. Sorry, I just saved it. So yeah, that's something I've thought about, like, very briefly. It's not something I put a lot of thought into. It's not something I have any intent of. Like, I have no intention of writing a sequel to it. Partially because some aspects of it were depressing to write anyway. Like, it wasn't a super fun story to write. I have thought about other stuff that I thought about other stuff that I would like to write, and I've outlined another story. It's just hard with time, honestly. Like, in like fantasy world, if I was doing YouTube, let's just say full time, I would probably dedicate more time to writing. But because of God damn it. Where's my fucking mouse? Oh my god, this is really frustrating. I think my computer's freezing up, or maybe my mouse died. Son of a bitch. Hold on one second. I need new batteries for my stupid ass mouse. So as far as, like, something I've considered, I would definitely like to write more positive stuff in the long run. So I wouldn't really have a desire to write a sequel to it. But also what I was saying was, you know, if I was doing YouTube full time, I'd probably dedicate more time to writing. But right now, it's essentially my day is, you know, I work a 9-hour day Monday to Thursday. 8 hours on Friday, have every other Friday off. And so, with that and my commute, by the time I get home, it's like, okay, do I want to exercise? Do I need to eat dinner? Do I have the energy to work on a video? I usually don't have the energy. Like, I don't have the energy most of the time to do a video and write. Like, is there a show I'm trying to watch? Do I want to hang out with my wife? So it ends up where I just simply don't have the time. And writing, because it's the most time consuming, kind of ends up being the thing I usually stick to the back burner. So even though I have other stuff outlined, I don't have any idea, like realistically. Well, let me see if this worked. Okay, it did that. I don't have any idea realistically of when I would actually get to it, which is a bit frustrating, but it's kind of whatever. And at the end of the day, to write a book, I know there's people who can write like crazy fast, and they can spend an hour a day and crank out 100,000 words in a couple of weeks, but that's not me. And that doesn't even get into like the that doesn't even get into editing, which is a fucking nightmare. I tend to be an outliner, so again, that's its own amount of time. It sounds like I need a 5-hour energy shot. I mean, there's just not enough time in the day. It's kind of what it comes down to. Like if my routine is going well, and I get up at whatever 6 to work. Sorry, if I get up at 6, go run, which I haven't been doing lately. I've been slacking. But let's just say, hypothetically, things are going how I should be going. So I get up at 6, go run, cool off, shower, head to work at 7-ish, work from 8 to 4:30 or 5. Get home at 5:30 or 6. Then I've got to eat dinner. And then I've got to decide how I want to spend like my 4 hours that I have that day. And writing like is just so much more time consuming, because I can do a video. Like, for me, like a Doom Prophecy video, it's an hour to watch the show. About maybe 45 minutes to record. Because I don't do a script for a lot of stuff. I just kind of do an outline in my head of important things that I want to talk about. And then I go. And then if, say it takes me another hour to record, because that might be how long it takes, then the raw audio will be 30 minutes. I chop all that up, like all the pauses and shit I cut out. That takes me probably about an hour to do half an hour of audio. And that would get it down to whatever, between 20 and 25 minutes. And that's another, 40 minutes for me to listen through it, delete the fuck ups. And the conversion and upload are nothing. That's just a matter of getting them started. So like even then, I can do a video in one night after work, if I really want to. I usually don't though, because I'm usually tired. But like, if I wanted to write, if I got home and started writing straight away, I mean, maybe I could get the first draft of a chapter in, and that would be my entire night, maybe. But the problem is, it would take me, I don't even know. I would guess, for 100,000 word book, it would take me, it's hard to even guess. 100 hours to write, maybe. And then, depending on how rough my first draft is, it's going to depend on how many edits it needs, which is going to be probably a couple hundred more hours at the end of the day. So even if I worked on a book every single day, I'd be looking at a minimum of 4 months, 3-4 months, and that would be if I worked on it every single day, which wouldn't happen because, I'd be tired and whatever else. I have other shit that I want to do besides just write. I mean, I do enjoy it, but so yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, there's only so much time in the day, and you have to make choices. It's just kind of life. Not really sure what else you would call it. I mean, maybe if I was back at like my government job, it might be a bit more feasible. Yeah, pull a page from Stephen King and do cocaine. If I was back at my government job that I started out my career with, it would actually probably be feasible for me to do all that, because then I could write and script and stuff at work. But my current job, I'm way too fucking busy. And I also like to read too. Like I've got like I don't even know. I've got like probably 6 books right now that I've pre-ordered on my Kindle that I haven't even fucking started reading yet. And I might manage to fit in 10 pages at a time, or like 10 minutes of reading a night just to read a little bit. Just other shit, But yeah, so that was a long-winded way to get through my 5 worst. The 5 best, I can be a lot quicker because there's not really a need to dwell on it. And I did put a bunch of honorable mentions and shit in the video also. Let's see, it should be done by now, actually. Okay, yeah, it's done. Alright. Alright, so that video's up now. Upload's finally done. But oh, yeah, so my top 5. Yeah, so my top 5 would be number 5, I had Dangers in My Heart. It's an anime. It's a rom-com. Super funny. Really not too much drama. Really wholesome, really good pacing. They're in middle school and they feel like middle school kids. A lot of just really nice moments. 2 seasons, you can bang it out in a day and feel pretty satisfied for where the story's at. Hey, what's up, Talons? Number 4 I said was My Demon. That's a K-drama about a demon who his mark gets transferred to a human girl. It's kind of a rom-com, so you can kind of guess where the story is going to go to some degree. It's got a little bit of everything, I think. It's got comedy, romance, action, supernatural stuff, a little bit of philosophy. Just really, it's just a really good show. Like, there's some shows that I think just most people would enjoy, and it's kind of one of those that I think you don't need to be super into rom-coms or Korean dramas or whatever to enjoy it. My number 3 was The Gentleman. The Gentleman is the Guy Ritchie show. If you guys haven't seen it, it's what the fuck's going on with this game? It's a Guy Ritchie show in the same universe as the movie. If you like the movie, the show is probably better because you have a lot more time with all the characters, a lot more time for, shenanigans and kind of his quirky dialogue and humor. Just overall, super fun show. I definitely love the tone. I like stuff where, people die and there's action, but it's never too dark. It's not like super gritty or anything like that. It's just good. It's kind of like good old school fun action show, I don't know if I missed something or what. I'm a little bit pissed off here. So that was my number 3. I really enjoyed that show. Number 2 for me was Queen of Tears. Queen of Tears is another K-drama, which I guess that's just my fucking thing. But so Queen of Tears is another Korean drama. So I was trying to figure out why I'm locked out here. Well, that's really fucking annoying. It's not giving me a clear answer here on why I can't fucking get in. I don't remember this being an issue, and I played through this game before, which is like probably my 20th time. So Queen of Tears is a Korean drama. It's like a drama rom-com type deal where this guy marries into this my audio? Do I sound weird? Maybe I got too far away from the microphone. Hopefully that's better now. I was just changing how I sit because I was uncomfortable for a minute there. So the premise is that this guy is married into this super wealthy family, and he kind of didn't know beforehand how wealthy they were. And her family ends up being super oppressive, kind of like laying out a schedule for their life for them. He doesn't really have a say in anything. Him and his wife sleep in separate rooms. And he's going to divorce her. But then he finds out that, she finds out that that she has some disease with 3 months to live. So then his lawyer friend is like, look, they made you sign a prenup, so you're not part of the will. You were miserable anyway. You should try to be nice to her to get back into to get on the will, so that you didn't suffer through this miserable marriage for nothing, essentially. fuck is going on here? And I've never had this happen before. I don't know what the issue is. So his friend's like, you should try to be nice to her. You know, you guys used to be in love anyway, and see if she'll put you on the will so you can at least get something for going through this marriage. And you were going to divorce her anyway, so who cares? It's just a couple months. It's kind of a dark premise. But obviously, you know, pretty soon they kind of rekindle their old feelings, and she's trying to find a cure for this disease. Blah, blah, blah. So it's a really nice story. It is kind of long. It's 16 episodes that are like an hour and a half each. So it's a decent time commitment, but it's really good. And for me, the number one for the year was Shogun. I just thought everything about Shogun was great. I loved all the politicking, obviously the performances. You know, all the characters were really interesting. You kind of feel for the main guy, John. Anna Sawai, who's the I can't remember her fucking name in that show now. I haven't watched it since it came out. I'm blanking on her name. Anyway, like she was really good in it, which I was surprised after seeing Monarch. Yeah. Yeah, Talons is a terminal illness. Have you seen it? Let me see if I can look up what, like, if there's a thing here where I'm stuck. Because I might have to quit the game or something. Sorry, I'm looking up on Reddit if there's some kind of glitch or something. Because I don't know exactly why I can't get into... I don't know why I can't get into the Rift Station or the Hot Labs. I mean, unless I just forgot to do something about it. I've literally never had this happen before. This is really fucking irritating. Is the weather here good? I'm in South Carolina. It was actually raining really hard earlier. I mean, it's warm at least. I don't know where you live at, but I mean, it's like close to 70 here. Hi, Mr. Divine. Thanks. Mr. Divine became a member. Sorry, I was trying to look up where to get. Like, I just need to know if it's a glitch or if I missed something. But I don't see what I would have missed. Let me see. This is actually really fucking irritating. Well, that's not helpful. Whoops. To Rift Station. Okay, this is fucking annoying. Oh, okay, so it is a soft lock. Shit. And it says you have to reload from. Before I go to the tram area. Huh, that's really fucking obnoxious. I hate soft locks. What does the heart button do? Um, that's a good question. What does the heart button do? Oh, yeah, it's just kind of an emoji. It's not even an emoji, it just does a little floaty thing. That's a weird feature. I've actually never used that before. I guess that's why, because it doesn't do anything. Alright, so let me see where my last save was. Actually, maybe if I wonder if I can just kill myself. Maybe that'll work. Because if I'm soft locked all the way back to Pharaoh's, I'm gonna be pretty fucking pissed off. Oh shit. Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I wonder if I can just leave. Like, I wonder if I can just leave and go all the way back to the Normandy and then come back if maybe it'll work. I mean, I know soft locks happen. The issue is that if the fix is I have to go back to my last save, I think my last save when I was just looking was like, it must have been like fucking 5 hours ago. Game time, which is super obnoxious. Oh, now I can't move. What the fuck is happening right now? Jesus. Oh, I really hope this isn't like a thing where I can't get around it. And I'm actually not even sure if I can go all the way back. Now that I'm thinking about it. Because I'm thinking now that that there'll be locked doors behind me. Like I would guess shit behind me is locked too. But yeah, if you guys haven't seen Shogun, it's a great show. I think it's only 10 episodes, about an hour each on Hulu. I'm not sure if it's streaming anywhere else now because it's been a few months. So I don't know if maybe Disney Plus would have it or something. I just don't know because I don't I have like the cheapest Hulu, so I don't really worry about it. But I do wonder if these streaming services kind of sell the shit to each other now sometimes. Because it feels like they must. Because like Crunchyroll definitely shares some rights with like Netflix and stuff. Because like I think Dandadan was airing on Netflix, Hulu, and Crunchyroll. Son of a bitch. I might just be fucking locked out. Well, that is absolutely infuriating. I guess let me see if yeah, my last save was fucking 6 hours ago. Jesus Christ. That is a bummer. Well, whatever. I've been going for a while today anyway, so maybe I'll just call it. Yeah, Talon says that everyone is selling their shit to each other anyway. That would be my assumption. Like, once you have it exclusive while it comes out, you know, anybody who didn't sign up for it at that time probably isn't going to sign up 6 months later to binge watch some show. So that's what I would think also. And oh shit, am I stuck here? Or is there a door that I can get out of? But yeah. So I would think that plenty of I would think that there'd be plenty of overlap between the services. Plus you have this weird shit where Disney bought Hulu a few years ago, and the contract actually did I forget something? Let me see if I forgot something. And the contract didn't take place till I think this year. So then once that happened, because you know Disney owns like ESPN or ABC, whatever, they own obviously Disney Plus. Now they own Hulu. So they started a bunch of bundles with Hulu to try to get you to get Hulu, Disney Plus, and ESPN, and ESPN Plus. So there's all kinds of weird shit happening. I'm just kind of waiting for the dust to settle. I mean, I'm damn sure never going to get Disney Plus. So that's not a concern. But, you know, the whole thing is just a mess. It feels like there's a billion streaming services, and each of them has about one show worth watching. And the rest is like kind of shit. It's so crazy. I'll talk to my parents or my grandparents or whoever. All the time they'll be like, "Oh, have you seen this show?" And it's some shit that I've never even heard of. Are they still buying big? Big what? Like the Big Ten? Or something different? Or you mean like a high price? Or is there something I'm totally just unaware of? Um, I actually don't know about that. I thought CBS bought the Big Ten. There's a bit of a lag, so I hope I guessed right there. But I thought CBS just bought all the Big Ten rights for a while. And that's why all their CBS shows now are like sucking off the Big Ten for football. I don't really follow too much of like the market stuff. I tend to just kind of hear about some of it sometimes. And I don't get too invested in it just because, I mean, why, honestly? Like, I'm not, trying to buy a bunch of Disney stock or anything. So, for me, it's just kind of information that's interesting, but I don't have a super, like, it's not something I'm super invested in. Although ESPN did buy the rights to the SEC, or big brands. Are there any left for them to buy? I mean, that would be the real question at this point. Because, I mean, the only reason I even said Big Ten is because I know that these networks are also trying to get into, like these streaming services are trying to get into sports now too. Like, I don't know if you guys follow any of that stuff, but the NFL got like on Amazon Thursday nights. I feel like ESPN has Monday Night Football for a while. Last year or 2 years ago, Paramount or Peacock or one of them had exclusive rights to a playoff game, and they paid a shitload of money for it. So there's all kinds of weird stuff going on with the streaming services. All right, let's see. So that stuff was all fine. Fusion reactor to the trans. This is where I came in. I wonder if I can actually go all the way back here. I'd be really surprised if that's the case. Oh man. Can't even to redo like 5 hours of fucking gameplay. Yep, looks like I'm locked in here. Son of a bitch. Oh, you motherfucker. Is that why? I'm gonna be super fucking annoyed if if I can go back there now and get in, and I was soft locked because of this one fucking enemy or some nonsense. Yeah, I've still got my grandmother on my dad's side and my grandfather on my mom's side, which, is pretty fortunate. My parents had me when they were 18. So some of my friends whose parents didn't have until they were a lot older either don't even remember their grandparents, or their grandparents were literally not even around when they were born. So, yeah, it is pretty fortunate in that sense. And I've been pretty close to them my whole life. All right, I'm gonna try this fucking tram one more time, and if it's still soft locked, I might have to see if I can get back out into the fucking, like, all the way back to the Normandy, leave the planet, and come back or something. As annoying as that is, that's better than having to redo like Pinnacle Station and stuff, which is a big pain in the ass. Because I don't know if you guys have played Mass Effect, but Pinnacle Station is essentially the combat simulator. Okay, so we'll see. Oh, I was gonna say this Pinnacle Station is the combat simulator, and I did it probably way before I should have. I'm only like level 28 out of 60. So it was a lot harder than it would normally be because, you don't have the super good weapons and all that shit yet. Oh, you only watch people play it? Okay. Well, if you really want to watch someone play it, you should watch I think the channel is called Prime Radiancy. And he does like one of the AI presidents play things. And most of the AI things I think are okay, but kind of like can be a little bit dull. But he does a really good job because the conversations they have, a lot of it's talking shit. And then Obama goes into like the deep lore. So you can learn a lot about it, about Mass Effect and the lore, just from those videos because the guy has Obama go way into it. And it's Obama, Biden, and Trump. And Biden and Trump are constantly talking shit. And then Obama's kind of the one to be like, knock it off, guys. Yeah, it looks like it's still all fucking locked down, huh? God damn it. Yep. See if I can summon it. Looks like no, though. But Mass Effect's a really cool story. I mean, if you have the time to play it I don't know if you prefer PC or Xbox or whatever, but the on Steam, I just got it on sale for like, I think it was like $5, $4. It was like 92% off or 95% off or something on Black Friday. And I'm sure they do way more than that. Break down the door. Yeah, I wish. Let's see. Wow. Okay, so it actually will let me go. It looks like all the way back. So what I'll probably do then is get out here, go back to the Normandy, and then I'll just save it and call it for today. And I'll try again later when I'm not on stream to you know, to mess with it or see if I just need to replay 5 fucking hours. Okay, so I can't. Usually when you're in the Mako, you can do a fast travel to the Normandy, but I guess because I'm on a campaign level instead of a exploratory level, it won't let me do that. What's up, Flack? So I need to. What I'll probably do is end the stream once I get back to the Normandy, and then see if this worked for anybody or if I'm just wasting my fucking time. But yeah, hopefully, because I'll probably be wrapped up in a couple of minutes here. Hopefully, you guys have New Year's plans. I won't be doing shit. I might be working Thursday. I do a 980, so I have every other Friday off. And I didn't realize that this Friday upcoming is one of my Fridays off. So I'll have Wednesday and Friday off. So I need to see if I can put in for Thursday too. And that way, I can have another 5-day week because I took off Thursday, Friday last week also. The Mass Effect movie, Talons? Oh, I think are you referring to the animated one and the focus is on Vega? I've seen it pop up. I don't know if it was on Funimation, but I've never actually watched it. Partially because I just don't care about Vega. And then I also actually didn't even know if it was considered canon or canon accurate, or if it was just some side little thing that they did. All right, Mr. Divine, have a good run. Thanks for the membership. I didn't see what tier you joined. I'm assuming the $5 one. Well, if it's the $5 one, try to go on Discord and put your member request in for January. But yeah, I don't know if that Mass Effect story is supposed to be canon, or if that was even something that BioWare cared about, or just it just got stuck out there. Because there were a bunch of comics that were considered canon. They're mostly pretty good. It mainly goes into detail about stuff that I like, all the little celebratory things. It mainly goes into detail about stuff that is like loosely referenced in the games, but you don't see it. So like I think one of the comics, if I remember right, is like Miranda and Jacob's backstory together. I think one of them is Tally's journey before she meets up with you in the first one. One of them is, I think, Liara recovering your body and becoming like getting in contact with Cerberus after you get blown up in 2. So you know, it's interesting stuff. It's not like crucial, but it's all right. It's fine. The light novels, or I guess they're just novels. The first one I really like because you get to see Saren and him being a Spectre and his backstory with Anderson. And Saren is fucking ruthless. Oh, okay. No, I haven't seen it. But Saren is ruthless, like in the book, which you don't really get to see much of that in the game, so it's pretty neat. All right, so I think I'm going to end it here. I think what I'm going to try to do is see if I can just go land on another planet, maybe come back and try again, and maybe do some Googling to see if, you know, see if I can get around this soft lock. I don't know. But, all right, I hope you guys have a good New Year's. Hopefully I'll be more consistent with my Sundays in 2025. Yeah. As far as videos coming up, Dune is over, so the only weekly thing I have right now is Skeleton Crew. I don't actually know what movies are coming up soon. I think January tends to be kind of a dud month. So maybe I'll use that to try to get caught up on a couple other videos that I wanted to get done and still haven't. But yeah, I'll see you guys later. Have a happy New Year. I don't know. I see it says message retracted. I assumed you did that. Or did one of the mods do that? I don't know. I don't know if one of the mods is abusing their power. Either way. You're not holding your breath about what? Having a happy New Year, Istad? Oh, about me being more consistent on Sundays? Yeah, suck my balls. All right. Have a good New Year's. I'll see you guys later.